Hello again, it's Stan. Right, it's been a little while, and here's another elf and safety story called Up the Garden Path. Here we go. Up the Garden Path. Mrs. Pippin was the secretary of Upper Snoring Recreation Club, which besides the hand and racket was at the village hub. It provided a safe haven where villagers could meet to play a game of snooker or enjoy some other kind of treat. One September day, she rang Environmental Health to tell about a strange event. She said, I glanced across the car park while chatting with a gent. It was then that we noticed them. There were 50, maybe more. We saw a bacchanalian scene which we'd never seen before. They were a weaving and a staggering as they lurched towards a nearby stream. Some less drunk supported others, as in some horrid dream. Some of them were fighting and causing quite a din. They might have swallowed pints of beer or bottles full of gin. One lively lad relieved himself on the step outside our door. So, Mr. Wheeler, please come quickly. We can't take any more. Don said, I have to tell you, madam, this is Environmental Health. You should have rung the police as I would have done myself. Oh, I'm so sorry, replied Mrs. Pippin. I failed to make things clear. I am not on about a horde of yobs or a swigging pints of beer. The creatures I refer to are far from Hamlin town. And when those drunken rats cavort about, it tends to get me down. Rats? Queried Don. As bows would prove useless on such creatures, I agree. I'll be around to see you at your club tomorrow afternoon at 3. And so it came to pass our Donald was all a quiver as he drove with verve towards a car park near the river. He had a chat with Mrs. Pippin, then set out for a stroll to check all the back gardens in his health inspectorial role. Then, just as he was giving up, he experienced a breeze and had an Isaac Newton moment when he spied some apple trees. He could finish off the rat's long evenings of depravity as sure as Mr. Newton had worked out the laws of gravity, for there upon the ground beneath the apple trees were scores of cider apples, along with swarms of bees, said Don. No wonder all the rats were having so much fun, with those enticing cider apples fermenting in the sun. He sauntered up the garden path and knocked on the back door to ask Granny Smith to move her apples from the garden floor. Don said, We would put some poison down, but the rats can't get enough of the cider from the apples. They won't touch the other stuff. 4 days went by until the phone rang from out the blue. Mrs. Pippin said, The rats have now all gone. That's why I'm thanking you. Oh, think nothing of it, replied Don, in his usual modest way. It's back to occasional drunken yobs now the rats have gone away. 2 weeks later went by. A letter dropped down on the office mat, telling of a scruffy, drunken mob led by a giant rat. The rats were further down riverbank, but herein lies the rub. They were eating apples, fallen apples, in the beer garden of a pub. The landlord refused to move the apples, however hard Don tried. You ask which group was the merriest, the one inside the pub or the one that was outside? So when you're building up a thirst, here's my tip to you. Try a pint of Newton's Best. It has become a proven